What generally happens in this point is the client has started to do a loop. They may start repeating the same 3 to 4 learnings. And the example on the screen here is freedom, safety, protection. So if you've heard freedom, safety, and protection, and then freedom, safety, and protection, and then freedom, safety, and protection, you know you've hit their neurological boundary. They can't get any higher for their intention until they break through that boundary. All right, you've got to help them through. So if you hear the loop, freedom, safety, protection, freedom, safety, protection, or something like that, grab all 3. Freedom, safety, and protection, what's the highest intention of this part? When you grab all 3 and ask them the highest intention of the part, you're helping them chunk through. And off they go. And then they'll find a brand new word, a brand new learning, which means you've helped them break through that neurological boundary that they were stuck in. The relief will be obvious on their face. They will breathe differently. It's like they've just been freed from their trauma. It's actually a beautiful experience to watch. Tears may start to fall, let them fall. All right, let them cry. Encourage them to keep their hands where their hands are, right? Because their hands may be moving at this point in time. You don't want them wiping tears. Let them fall. Clean them up later. All right, because you want this beautiful experience to happen. This is the most profound modality treatment because you can literally feel the pull of the nervous system as it integrates. That's why the hands come together. It's insane. All right, so that person's going to keep chunking up, chunking up, chunking up, chunking up. All right, until they come to a point where they get to what would be considered the highest intention. Now, that for a lot of people is things like love and wholeness and everything that sounds very big picture, universe-based, you know, up into the gods, all those sort of a little bit woo-woo, airy-fairy type words, the big wide world words. A lot of people loves the highest because, well, love is the greatest, right? Now, occasionally, and only occasionally, and this is something I'll get you to add to the bottom of your book because it's not written in the script, but only occasionally, you might have the client do a bit of a sidestep, a bit of a lateral chunk, so to speak. If they start talking about world peace or something that seems dissociated, it's no longer about themselves, it's about others, then they've gone out of association. And I'll get you to write down the bottom of your book on page 73. So just write down if they dissociate. If they dissociate, the question you would ask, and it's written on the screen now, what will that do for you? What will it make you feel? What will that do for you? What will it make you feel? So if they dissociate, you need to bring them back to self. And the question of what will that do for you? What will it make you feel is making them come back in their body, reassociating them, looking through their own eyes. All right, I haven't had to use it often, but it's there in case you do. All right, because we don't want them chunking up on world peace. That's all about others. It needs to be about self. We're trying to integrate their nervous system inside themselves. We're not responsible for world peace in a singular person. All right, so once we've got them chunked high, and we've got them to the highest intention, you would do the same for the other part. Again, I'll go through the script shortly, and you will actually have both parts, the unwanted part and the non-problem part, will have come to the same highest intention. Whether that be love, whether that be joy, whether that be abundance, it's different for everyone depending on what their value systems are, but you will have had both sides come to the same intention. So So at step six goes for ABC. Have the parts notice that they were once part of a greater whole. Ask for other parts that were also once part of the larger whole join in the integration. Now, this is all written in your book. What resources or attributes does each part have that the other part would like to have? Bring hands together, have images merge, and then take the integrated part inside and have it merge into the wholeness inside. Test and future pace. All right. So there are a lot of instructions, but there's not necessarily a lot of words to say. All right. Let's go through the actual script. Okay. If you would like to highlight the actual words you say, I feel that's the cleanest way to do it. There's obviously instructions, and there's instructions to tell you how to set up your client. All right. But the words you verbalize are in quotes. So let's start with step one. We need to identify the conflict and the parts involved. Make sure you clearly identify the parts clearly. They clearly want you to do it clearly, and understand the nature of the conflict. All right. So this is a discussion. And when you use this in coaching, you'll already have an entire shit sheet because you've been through a discovery call. So it won't be challenging to find this. In a learning environment like this, I've asked you to put things on your shit sheet to make it really easy for us to find something to work with. All right. But in a coaching scenario, you've already worked with them a fair bit before you get to parts integration. So you already know their stuff. Okay. So it won't be hard to identify the part. However, if someone happens to say to you, I've got 2 houses and that's a problem, then you simply need to ask, well, how is that a problem? All right. So next to step one or around step one, if you want to write the words, how is that a problem? You may need to use that if someone tells you, I've got 2 houses and I don't know what to do about it. You may need to ask, how is that a problem? Then they will go, well, sometimes I feel like I'm worthy of everything I want and sometimes I'm not, or whatever her language was. Okay. All right. So that's step one. Now, the instructions for step two. In this time, you would ask your client to sit in a chair that doesn't have arms in the way. They wouldn't be sitting on the floor. Like, they'd be sitting in a comfortable position so they can create upright posture where arms can come into a right angle. And yes, it can be done on Zoom. Okay. So you would simply ask them to sit in a position where they can. So I personally would be back here and I would adjust my camera so that way you can see. I would get myself like so. So you can physically see my hands and my face at the same time. Now, there are some clients I've worked with where I've cut off their face a bit to get to their hands. If I'm doing it on Zoom, I need to see their hands more than anything because I can hear them. All right. But it's an L-shaped position. So it needs to be, try not to knock my laptop off its stand. All right. So it needs to be upright. The arms need to be able to move. Okay. So not back here where the body's going to be in the way. It needs to be comfortable. They shouldn't be rigid, but the arms need to be able to come in. All right. So if someone's a little bit larger in the boobs department or larger in the belly department, then you need to help find that place where the hands can come together without things in the way. Okay. So just make sure they're set up well. If you're doing this face-to-face with people, it's super easy because you would just set them up and you can physically touch their hands to get them into position. All right. Okay, so that is step two. Have the parts which represent the unwanted state or behavior. Could you, whatever you're going to do for the things you say, leave that, but could you, if you're going to highlight the words you're going to say, could you underline the words unwanted state or behavior? whichever one is not the words, but I want you to make it crystal clear, unwanted state or behavior. So underline or highlight, whichever way you're doing it. You're not saying that, but these are a very clear instruction. We must talk to the crappy part first. Okay, we must talk to the problem, the part that has the problem. Okay, so I'm just really highlighting that. Have the part which represents the unwanted state or behavior come out on the hand first.